Greetings and welcome to the From Me to You show. I'm Dr. Clark. And on this marvelous day, I want to share some insight. I'll put it like this. I want to share some insight that I was privileged to gather on today. And it made me think about this particular topic that we're going to talk about today. And the topic is looking at our defense mechanisms. How do we cope? How do we go about in our daily living, interacting with one another, and what are some of the things that we go through to cope, to get things done, to get things to go our way, to get some of the things that we want, some of the things that we need, and how do we go about in our interacting on a day-to-day basis. And I was talking to some people and listening mainly. I spend 95% of my time just listening, and it was interesting on how we see life. Okay, and I did make a statement that there's a difference between living and existing. Existing, you just kind of go through the motions. You can try to get this day done, and hey, tomorrow, we'll look at it. Living, you have an expectation. You have hope, all right? And when you existing, you're in a survival mindset. You're just trying to make it today, one more day. You're in a survival mindset, and thus you act accordingly, all right? There's no right or wrong in it, but just wanted to take this time out today on the From Me to You show and look at some of the ways in which we cope and how we interact. And I want to say a little bit about love. You have to be able to identify love. You have to be able to describe love. You have to be able to demonstrate love. You got to know what love is, okay? And a lot of times we use words and we'll say love, but it's really more like Like. I like this. I like that. We like material things. That's about the most we can really do with something material is to like it, even though we'll say that we love it. But those things that are material, they have no soul. Love is a soul to soul, a person to person, people to people. Love is action. Love is care, concern, compassion. All right? But we'll take that word and use it so in general and so lightly, and we apply love to everything to it has lost its effect. It has lost its effect. I just wanted to put it on your mind. There's no right or wrong, but I just want to put that on your mind when you're thinking about it and how you interact with love. All right. And as we look at coping, that's where it took me to. It took me to how do we go about coping in just day-to-day living in our human condition. We have what we call defense mechanisms. All right, these things get us through. I'm going to give you some to think about, something to work on in this particular show on today, and no particular order, but I'm just going to give it to you as it comes to me. But defense mechanisms are a mental maneuver that one consciously or unconsciously chooses to use to distort or falsify the truth of one's experience in order to protect oneself from feeling painful emotions like shame, guilt, or anxiety. All right, that's one mechanism right there. It just giving you an overview of a defense mechanism, what it is, and I'm going to give you some defense mechanism. You're going to say, oh, okay, so that's what that is. I didn't know I was doing that. Absolutely. But the defense mechanism in itself, it's a mental, see, it's all a mindset. All right? It's a mental maneuver that one consciously or unconsciously chooses. Sometimes you don't even know you're doing it. Sometimes it's such a habit that that's just where you go to. That's your escape. That's your coping. That's your defense. That's how you make a stand. All right. And we use these to distort or falsify the truth of one's experience in order to protect oneself. Because that's what we're doing. You and I, we want to protect ourselves from any harm, any danger, anything that we think that might be danger. All right. That is what we're looking at. And I'm thinking again out loud, I'm thinking again out loud. What if someone just walked up to you and said, could you please explain to me, how do you function? How do you cope in your day-to-day living? What would you say to that person? They just wanted some insight on how do you function? How do you get along every day and live this life that you have? How do you continue to go on? What would you say? Just keep that in mind as we walk through these defense mechanisms. One, right off the top, and I'm going to start with this because everybody's familiar with this one, lying. Lying. Just simply lying. And we'll fix it up too and say, well, you know what? It's just a little white lie. I didn't tell the whole truth. We'll fix it up. Lying is just lying, okay? One doesn't tell the truth for either self-gain or to spare feeling ridicule, rejection, or punishment. Phrases like, I swear I didn't do it, it doesn't mean anything, are often used when we know we haven't lived up to our higher selves. And I want you to think about this question right here. In what circumstances do you think people lie the most? In what circumstances do you think people lie the most? And then I want you to take it and apply it to yourself. In what circumstances do you lie the most? Just want to put a little something on your mind. All right, good thing about the podcast, you can go back and listen to it again. You can take some notes for it. I highly recommend that you get your composition book, make your little journal, listen to the podcast, stop it at a certain point and everything, and then make a few notes from it, add a little bit to your journal. Good for you, all right? Some self-awareness. Next one, rationalization. Rationalization occurs when we tell an element of the truth, but deny the larger truth of the matter. For example, I could have won the race, but the track was wet. The larger truth was that someone was faster. I got fired, but the boss was a jerk. Failures are a threat to the ego, and rationalization doesn't hurt as bad. That's how we rationalize things, all right? And it occurs, like I said, when we tell an element of the truth, but deny the larger truth of the matter. That's rationalization. That's a way that we in our human condition, we cope. May not be one that you use, but it's one that some people use, and maybe one that you use on occasion. Let me put it like that. Again, let's do another one. Regression. When adult defense mechanisms stop working for us, we regress to a personality we had at childhood. For example, when an adult doesn't take responsibility, he says, it's not my fault, it's her fault. That's regression. You're going back to a childhood state, not wanting to take on the responsibility. Immature patterns of behavior emerge, such as bragging. Even bragging. Immature patterns of behavior emerge, such as bragging. That's going back to a childhood thing. All right. You can't just base this on age. I put it like that. Some people 30 years old, they go back to childhood. Some people 50 years old, they go back to a childhood state. Regression. All right. It's just an adult defense mechanism. Hey, when it stops working for us, we regress to the personality we had at childhood. Ever had somebody tell you, stop acting like a child? Stop acting like a kid. Time for you to grow up. Yeah. A little regression there. And then I want you to be sure to go to the website, the For Me to You show website, Dr. Clark Cowboy, and listen to the podcast. Sometimes there's different information on there that you can use in your daily living. Time to time, there are courses on there. I think there are about, 6 or 7 different courses on there right now. My goal is to get it up to 30. I'm trying to build a library for you of information where you can go and use and apply and share with others. Make sure you click on the notification. That'll let you know when the new episode is coming out, and you don't have to go back and check it. It'll just give you a notification. The new episode is out, and you can click on. We're on about 11 different podcasts right now. Apple, Spotify, Listen Notes, and the list just goes on and on and on. SoundCloud. And I appreciate everybody out there listening and clicking in. And when you click on the like, just share it with somebody. Click share, click share, click share, click share, click share. Welcome to the From Me to You show. We're talking about defense mechanisms on the day and how we cope in daily living, kind of walking you through this process. The next one is repression. We just did regression. Now let's look at some repression. Repression, the person forces the unacceptable or threatening feeling out of awareness to a point where she becomes unaware of it. That's when you do it, you repressing it. You're taking and you forcing the unacceptable or the threatening feeling out of your awareness to a point where he or she becomes unaware of it. It's like it's not even there. You have repressed it. Examples could be a simple reprimand. It's a little simple reprimand. And you just kind of push it and make it unaware, like, okay, this really didn't happen, all right? A person is asked, how do you get along with your mother? And he responds, just fine, as he turns pale. Negative feelings about the mother are so unacceptable that they block his awareness. And I say that again, I'll use this example again. A person is asked, how do you get along with your mother? And he responds, just fine, as he turns pale. See, body language, what he said verbally and what his body language showed, they did not match up. He has negative feelings about the mother. So unacceptable that they block his awareness. He's not even aware that he's pale right then. He's looking different. His physical, his body language has changed. He's not even aware, or he or she, they're not even aware of that. All right, that's that repression. The person forces the unacceptable or threatening feeling out of awareness to a point where he or she becomes unaware of it. The next one is denial, just simply denial. The person doesn't acknowledge the validity of the matter, but acknowledge its presence. They oppose force with force, force with force. For example, the alcoholic expresses, I may like to drink, but I'm not an alcoholic. Our smoker concludes that the evidence linking cigarette use to health problems is bogus. That's just simply denial. Even though the research is telling you this, this, and this, if you do this, this, and this, it's the research is telling you. This is what they found. But yet you're going to denial and just disregard the research altogether. The person doesn't acknowledge the validity of the matter, but acknowledge its presence. They oppose force with force. Another one, suppression. Oh yeah, suppression. The person is aware of the unacceptable desire and validates it, but intentionally tries to keep it from expressing himself. Let me do it again. The person is aware of the unacceptable desire and validates it, but intentionally tries to keep it from expressing itself. For example, I know I'm an alcoholic. I'm just using that today because that's what's popping up in my head. For example, I know I'm an alcoholic, so I'm going on the wagon. All right? An introvert is conditioned to be an extrovert. He often suppresses anger. I'm just using some of these suppression things, what suppression is to get you to kind of get it. An introvert, it's not that they cannot speak in front of people and they can't socialize. It's just that when they're around people, a lot of people drain their energy. Okay, so in suppression, this person who is an introvert, shy, sensitive, think inward, people drain their energy. This introvert is conditioned to be an extrovert. They condition themselves to go and socialize, to go and mix and mingle, to get involved in the conversation. They condition themselves to be an extrovert, to be outgoing. That's what an extrovert is, they're outgoing. So suppression, it works right there as well. And then projection. Oh yeah. The person attributes one's own perceived negative attributes unto someone else. Boy. How many times have you seen this one? Or how many times have you done this one? The person attributes one's own perceived negative attributes onto someone else. For example, Bill blames the instructor for a bad grade when he didn't study. Sarah says, you envy me, when Sarah really envies the other person. Sam cheats on his spouse and blames the spouse for cheating. Those things are defense mechanisms. Everything that we talked about are defense mechanisms. These things are things that people use in everyday life and their human condition. And we talked about lying, rationalization, distraction, regression, repression, denial, suppression, and projection. And you can remove the defense mechanisms once you tap into your self-awareness and recognize that you are using these. You can read about them. You can write about your feelings and your actions. You can talk to a close friend or even a therapist. You can do some meditating. And I highly encourage you to do some praying. I highly encourage you to pray. This is how you go about removing those defense mechanisms. Read about them, write about your feelings and actions, talk to a close friend or even a therapist, do some meditating and praying. The key here is to be aware of it and say, you know what? That's me. That's me. It's one of those right there that I do go to a lot. Let me change that. Let me remove that. Okay? Let me remove that. And we appreciate you listening in. I'm Dr. Clark, Cowboys here in the audio. And sometimes he'll just let me go. Today he just let me go. We do this every Tuesday. It's really a new episode day. But hey, when you're on the For Me to You show, we are subject to come on every single day, just whenever we feel like it. Do have some guests lined up, some interviews lined up to share with you. Just give you something for your daily living, thinking out loud. We try to keep it just real straightforward, real simple. But click on the notifications so that way you'll know when the next episode is coming out. And click on the like. And then when you do the like, click and share it to somebody. Just text it to somebody and say, hey, listen in. We appreciate you. And have a blessed day. Take care.